everyone. We are about to start chapter 3 of A Girl Named Helen Keller. You can watch the previous videos to see chapter 1 and 2. What we've learned recently in the previous chapters is that Helen Keller is a little girl who is blind and deaf. She is struggling. They think she is very intelligent, but they're having a hard time reaching her. Her parents are trying to go out to a special school called the Perkins School to get a special teacher that might be able to help her learn. We're going to read more to find out more about Helen Keller. Chapter 3. On the afternoon of March 3rd, 1887, the teacher arrived. Helen was standing near the front door of the house. Suddenly, she felt footsteps on the stairs. She thought it was her mother and reached out. Someone took Helen's hand and pulled her close. It was not Helen's mother, so the girl pulled away. It was Anne Sullivan, her teacher. She was the young woman from Boston who had to come to show Helen the world. And she was the woman who had come to love her. Later in life, Helen would call this day the birthday of her soul. On the day she arrived, Miss Sullivan gave Helen a doll. D-O-L-L spells doll, said Miss Sullivan. She spelled the word on her fingers into Helen's hand. She made the letters with a special alphabet. It was an alphabet of hand signs. Helen copied her teacher. She spelled D-O-L-L, but she did not understand what she was doing. Soon, Miss Sullivan found out that Helen did just what she wanted. At dinner, Helen would not sit in a chair. She walked around the table. She ate from everyone's plate. She ate with her fingers. You are not being kind to Helen, Miss Sullivan told the family. She must be taught how to behave. There were terrible fights. Helen, you will do it my way, Miss Sullivan shouted. Even though Helen couldn't hear her, she made Helen sit in a chair. Helen stood up again. She made Helen hold a spoon. Helen threw the spoon away. She made Helen eat from her own plate. Helen threw the plate across the room. Every meal was a fight, but Miss Sullivan began to win. Helen sat in her chair at last. Helen's mother worried about Helen. Miss Annie, you are too hard on her, Miss Keller said. Miss Sullivan was firm. I cannot teach Helen unless I can control her. Miss Sullivan spoke to Mr. Keller. I must be alone with Helen for a while, she said. May we move into the little house in the garden? For 2 weeks, said Mr. Keller. No more. The Kellers took Helen for a long ride. They took her to the little garden in the house. That way, Helen did not know she was close to home. We're going to stop here at chapter 4, come back and see the last chapter of our text.